So we are at the stage where we have a completely plausible flyer. And so we're now going to be entering that part of the day where we start to really dive in to how we can configure it properly. So we're going to choose one of our elements that we've already added, and we're just going to configure that one. But these options that we're going to go through are configurable at that element level. So you can have different settings for imprint here, different ones for theme code, and so on and so forth. So in order to get to the bit that we're interested in, I'm going to click on Edit here, and we're going to go through the options that are presented on this page. So the first one you see here is vertical space before. And I mean, a lot of these are fairly self-explanatory, but we'll use each of them and see how far we get. So over on our flyer here, the bit of the page that we're going to be affecting here is the imprint. And its rendering here is Feline Press because that is the name of the imprint. We've chosen not to have a heading text, and that's why it's not labelled. And if we increase vertical space before, I'll give you 3 guesses as to what's going to happen. The vertical space before is going to increase. And so we'll see when the PDF comes back, there is our extra vertical space. And what I would do with this is kind of iterate, just feel your way, because that is clearly too much. That looks silly. And so what I'm going to do is go in here and just sort of edge it back until, you know, I get to the stage where I'm thinking, does this look pleasing? Is this going to be aesthetically pleasing? When the page loads, we'll see that, yeah, that's not bad. I mean, it could be a bit tighter, but you know, we can keep changing it. We can keep fiddling around with it. So that's great for now. That's one of the options, vertical space before. There are some styling options that follow, and we're going to cover that in a separate bit. But we'll look next at these display inline or on separate lines or as table cells options. And by default, we're having these on separate lines. But if I choose inline, then let's look at theme code there, for instance. This is on separate lines. The clue there is that these are on separate lines. But I'm going to, if I change this to inline, then the heading and the content are going to flow onto the same line. So that's going to be interesting to look at. And also, there are these next options. Do I want to insert a space between the heading text and the content? And this is great for either adding in your own free promotional text, or, you know, the example here is if it's a price, you might want to put in the $sign for a heading and squish that close up next to the numbers, rather than having a slightly strange gap in that sense. Then you can insert a space between the content and following free text and put in some free text after the content as well. So if I add some of these bits of info in around imprint, I'll show you what I mean. So we might want to say something like coming soon from the leading cat brand of all time, and then a space, and then an M dash. Then I do want to have a space between the heading text and the word Feline Press, and then I do want a space after it, because then I want to say the best cat books since 2015. I mean, this is not going to sell any more cat books, but you know what I mean. So I've pressed save, and now we are going to see that is kind of free text that we've put in and sort of wrapped around a bit of data. So just to look again, and the spacing is a bit off actually, so I'm going to change it, not have that there. That's better. Yes, so what we're seeing is that we can add free text before a bit of data, control the spacing, snick in a bit of data. Here it's the name Feline Press, and then control the spacing after it and have some free text. So that can be useful for promotional sort of messaging like we've done here. It can be useful for extents if you want to say something like page count and then the count, like 416, and then no space and the letters PP. That is pretty usual. Or, you know, you might want to say X tax after the price or something like that. All sorts of things. So that's a really nice way to kind of tailor the, not just the presentation, but the content that's going in there. So I think we covered everything on that configuration area. And as I say, we'll come back to looking at the styles in a bit. And the other thing I want to show you though is that there's a way to add in artwork on the header and the footer of the page. I mean, you can see at the moment it's looking a bit sort of, I'm not sure how to characterize it. It just doesn't look quite right, does it? It looks a little bit computer generated, and I find that putting in artwork really suddenly brings a design to life. It gives it a hat and a footer, a tail, and I just feel like it adds something. So what I've done is make available on the documentation a couple of bits of sample artwork for you. Here's the header, Spring Summer 2026, which will be here before we know it, and here's the footer, just some random text. And so what I'm going to do is hover over the first image, and I'm going to save image as, and I'm going to save it as banner. Lovely. I'm going to hover over the second image and right mouse click, save image as. I'm going to save that image as that. And so you should do that as well, to get this sample artwork, just to get you going. And where we're going to put it is in the images tab, in images region. So if you go to customize your own layout options, scroll down a bit and you'll see the images region. And I'm going to click edit. And I've got two buttons, choose banner, choose footer, and you can grab some placeholder stuff if you want as well from there. So the banner is going to be there. Choose the footer. These are the files I've just downloaded, banner and footer. Lovely. Then I'm going to press save, and we're going to see that that's going to get used on our PDF here. And when the page loads, sure enough, now we have a really nice header and we have a really nice footer. And I don't know, it brings, now it's starting to look like a valid piece of marketing collateral. Just some simple artwork. I've just knocked it up in Photoshop, nothing fancy. I did make sure that it had either a white or a transparent background, and then we haven't got any horrible hard edges. And I do like this trick of adding in a bit of a border at the bottom of the artwork file there, and then that gets you a border line as well. So that is some of our configuration options. As we're getting into the pattern of now, I will stop this video and let you have a go. Just before I zoom off though, I will turn on the show grids option as the documentation is advising me to do there. This isn't something that I would leave on for when I'm using the flyer to actually generate materials, but it's really handy when we're in this iteration phase for drawing a big line around how much space each of our entries has got to work with. And it really helps, I think, to sort of give that sense of, oh, okay, that's how much space I've got to work with. I reckon I could get a bit more information in, or I reckon that my cover could be a bit wider, or whatever. But I think it's really helpful just to have that box drawn sometimes, so that you can see, okay, this is my design grid. So again, that's on customize your own layout options, and it's show grid, which I can tick on and off like that. Right, I'll let you go. Have a good time doing that. Configure one of your elements, pop in that banner and that footer, and we will reconvene when you've done that.